Hello, Nicholas Sperling here. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm introducing you to my brand new social justice coloring book. It's finally done. I've mentioned this in other videos, but I've got all of the pages right here in front of me, and I think it's time we get into it, and I'll explain a little bit about what this book is about. This is the mental health page. You can see the brain here and all of these pieces coming off the brain, all of the symbolism involved. I'm not going to go into too much detail with these because otherwise it'll take ages, but you can get a better sense as I do write-ups of these in the future. This is the environment page. You can see this tree in the foreground, and in behind it you get glimpses of beautiful nature, but you also get so much ugliness because of human impacts on the environment. Then we have the Indigenous issues page. On one side is the history of colonialism, and on the other side is the current impacts of colonialism. And again, lots of symbolism that I will go into in future. This is the healthcare page. You can see the background here is made to look like an ambulance with the tires down here and the lights up here. And then these all symbolize different aspects of healthcare, and then also the people that are left behind when it comes to accessing healthcare. This is the drug criminalization page. At the top is sort of how criminalization affects the wealthier, the more privileged, and then the less privileged or less wealthy individuals. This is the wealth inequality page, and you can see up here represents the top 1%, and then here is all of the wealth that they hold. Here is the top, I believe it's 10%, and then the wealth down here that they hold, and then all of the other people down here and the wealth that they hold. So at the bottom you can see here circles representing coins, and then the population that has that tiny little amount of wealth. And this is the classism page. Up here we have royalty, government, money, those sort of power structures at the top, and then underneath is everyone else trying to sort of balance out what is left. Then we move on to the housing page, and you can see how every little section, these are all the same size, but they're used in such different ways. They could be a park with people living in tents, or it could be duplexes, it could be small little apartments or big apartments, or houses or a mansion, and you can see the number of people that fit into each of those spaces and sort of how crammed it gets at times, and how much excess there is at times as well. Then we have the animal abuse page, this sort of non-distinct animal down here that's just being abused in so many different ways by organizations even that will purport to support animals. And then up here is the cage with various different types of animals in behind represented, and sort of the white picket fence, the facade of it all, which then turns into a pitchfork here attached to the boot. This is the food insecurity page, and you can see the barn here, the agriculture in behind. This could be a stream or a pipeline. You've got forests on fire over here with trees cut down over here, and a safe attached to a bomb, attached to a government symbol. There's so much symbolism in these drawings. Like I said, I can't go into it in detail, but hopefully as you color through here, you'll be able to recognize that, and I'll do write-ups on it as well. And then here, 1 in 6 people deal with food insecurity. So you've got this tiny little space supplying basically everyone these apartments on the side. This page is dedicated to war, and up above you can see what sort of people idolize in terms of a war state, and then you can see the actual reality of what war is. You've got the winning side over here and the losing side over here, but in reality both sides have lost. Then we move on to the refugees and immigration page. These are all roads that lead to different areas. They all have checkpoints and people at various places along those roads. And the roads just represent travel between different areas. And you can see that could be a boat, it could be someone walking or taking a train or driving. And then you also have all of these different areas. So each of these areas represents perhaps a different country, a different area that people are trying to move towards or move away from. And then additional barriers like fences around places that prevent that motion of people. Then we have the human trafficking page, which showcases a truck, and this could also be representative of a container, more containers, or ways of shipping people up above, and people being walked or being driven, being taken on trains up here, or being put on boats, and sort of what that looks like in terms of bringing people over for sex work and bidding on human beings online, silencing them and restricting their motion. So lots of symbolism in there, but also this is one of the less detailed pages because there's so much unknown or that we don't realize is happening as a society. I use the same concept with this page of having sort of less detail in it to highlight the lack of information that we have around this. And this page is related to child labor. So it's divided off into sections, factories and agriculture, mining and sex work. Some of the areas that children are used for labor against their will and in awful ways. This is more of a raunchy page. This is the sex work page, and it's just the reality of the world. There's different aspects of sex work, whether that is also being involved in human trafficking. There's sort of dominatrix work or sort of various types of in-person sex work. There's online sex work, and then this is sort of highlighting what my experience in the red light district of Amsterdam was kind of like, but a little bit more graphic. That brings us along to the sexism page, and you can see here this human being that is designed to look like the binary male and female symbol that's often used on transgender accessible washrooms. And this section relates to women, whereas this section relates to men. Men have much more space, access to money, things like that, and that's sort of what this represents. But then you see the multitude of issues that are centered around women in a large part, but also this is about intersectionality and recognizing that trans women are women, for instance. So this entire book has sort of overarching themes of intersectionality. Even though I've sort of created these individual pages, this book as a whole represents a variety of different issues, and those issues always play into each other. Now we move on to the first page I created, and that's because this is the one that resonates the most with me as a transgender person and as a lesbian. This is the LGBTQ2IAS+ page, and this one doesn't use a lot of simple imagery. It uses a lot of symbolism, and hopefully you'll be able to see that more as you're drawing in this page, but there's the use of rulers versus freehanding, and the use of different symbols in conjunction with each other. So there's a lot to look into with this one, and I'm interested to see how you interpret it. This is the only page that includes color, and I'm not sure if that's going to end up in the final version because these pages might end up being black and white, but the blue represents the thin blue line, and that's because this is the page related to racism and xenophobia, and it showcases things like chicken heads and how that is a big symbol of anti-Asian hate, because it was sort of one way that people thought, at least in schools, that Asian kids were weird, for instance. And so that ended up being a bit of a symbol. And then we've got the fist here, symbol of police, but with the dollar sign, sort of worn down houses because of the dynamics of wealth inequity when it comes to that as well. Breaking glass ceilings. There's a lot of pretty obvious symbolism in here, but also symbolism you kind of have to look for. So I think that's quite an interesting one, and I spent a lot of time on that because racism and xenophobia is a huge conversation at the moment. This one is about prisoners' rights, and you can see that a lot of the imagery in this one is not visible. It's obscured by having the bars in front of it, and that's kind of what I was going for. A lot of prisoners' rights are ignored because the issues sort of are unseen by the general population, and that's because prisoners don't have the ability when they're in prison to reach the population as easily. So there's lots of symbols hidden behind here, like this dove that's behind these bars, representing freedom being taken away and access to voting being restricted, and access to food, and prisoners being used for manual labor, things like that. And then finally, we come to a page that I think is becoming a much bigger issue as time moves on, and that's technology, because technology is growing at an incredible rate, and we're struggling to keep up as far as government regulations and laws and making sure that people are protected. And there's also these massive companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook and Tesla and Apple that are creating networks where it's very difficult to repair items, or very difficult to break away once you've sort of invested in that brand. So there's a lot of issues at play, and then this entire drawing is set up sort of like a computer chip with all of these issues branching off from there. So that's it for the pages of the coloring book, and as time moves forward, I want to fill in these pages myself so you get a sense of sort of what I was going for with them. And I'm also really interested to see how you fill them out. So I'm hoping to put some of these up that are filled in with some descriptions about what the pages represent. But I also want you to sort of reflect on the issues and think about what the symbolism means and look into these issues yourself. That's the intent of this book, to give you a chance to reflect on social justice issues, figure out your position on them, and what you think of all of these things, and just get your memory or get your brain working a little bit. Like I said, I hope you enjoy this. We're working on releasing this ideally for Christmas or for the holiday season, so people can get it as gifts for each other, and also so it can be used in schools potentially in January, because we have some teachers that are interested in this for their classrooms. And if you're interested in being updated on the status of the coloring book, I'll leave a link down in the description. You can click on that and you can sign up for updates. And I'll also leave my social media handles so you can follow me and keep up to date that way as well. We're also going to be donating proceeds from the sales of this book to organizations that support various social justice causes, and every year it's going to be a different cause that we're supporting. So Susan, my boss, is interested in making the proceeds from this for the first year go towards Indigenous causes, and I'm fully on board with that, because this year has been really focused on Indigenous issues, at least here in Canada. And so that's a really important one that I'm really excited to see some more money going that way. As always, if this is the kind of content you enjoy seeing, please make sure you hit the like button down below. If you want to see more content like this, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. And until next time, have a great day.